Hey everyone, Ryan with Mid-Atlantic Collectibles here. Today we're going to talk about the 10 must-have Washington sports cards. So from the Senators to the Redskins, from the Capitals to the Bullets, Wizards to the Nationals, Washington's just had a tremendously rich and long sports history. That history has generated some incredible teams and some incredible athletes, and of course, along with that, a lot of fantastic sports cards. We are going to go through those and we're going to talk about what we think are the 10 must-have, really iconic, most desirable cards. High values, not necessarily the most valuable, but ones that really should be on the short list for any real Washington sports fans. So let's get at it. Okay, first some ground rules before we get into the top 10. First, the athlete can only appear once on the list. Otherwise, we could end up with like 10 Walter Johnson cards. So we're going to limit it to just one card per athlete for the top 10. Second, there's going to be no transients, no kind of short-term flyby players on this list. So this list is really, these cards are going to be from players whose career, whose tenure was really defined by their time in Washington. So that's going to, of course, rule out some real legends of sports, people like Michael Jordan, Moses Malone, Bernard King, Deion Sanders, and many others who, kind of had stopovers in Washington. I'd add Max Scherzer to that list, who's, had much of their career has been played elsewhere. And then last, no one-of-one cards on this list or real extreme low population cards. Here, the idea with this list is really for a top 10 of cards that should be, reasonably accessible to the real sports collectors in Washington that really want to get a hold of some key cards in Washington, among Washington athletes. So that's our rules for the top 10. All right, let's jump in. Number one, or actually number 10 on the list, the 1975 Topps Joe Theisman. So Joe Theisman spent 12 years as quarterback of the Redskins after being an All-American Heisman Trophy winner, runner-up at Notre Dame University. He actually started as Washington's punt returner and then became the starting quarterback in 1978 when Billy Kilmer retired. He led Washington to 2 consecutive Super Bowls and a championship in 1982 against the Miami Dolphins. He has the Redskins record for 22 game-winning drives, for the most passing yards and completions. And, listen, what do you look for in an NFL quarterback? You really look for someone who knows how to win. And that's definitely Joe Theisman. Joe Theisman took the Redskins to multiple Super Bowls and was an incredible player. Unfortunately, career ended in a really horrific on-field injury at the hands of the great Lawrence Taylor. But he'll always, he's maintained very strong involvement with the Washington football team franchise and definitely warrants a position on the top 10 list of cards. This 1975 Topps cards is rookie. It has a PSA population of just under 1,400. The most common PSA graded card is PSA 8, and you can pick that up for generally in the range of about $50 to $75. Number 9, the 1971 Topps Greatest Moments, Frank Howard. So Frank Howard spent 16 years in the major leagues, including his 7 most productive years with the Washington Senators, from 1965 to 1971. The Washington team was really kind of a lowly bunch at that time, and he actually led the team in home runs and RBIs every year he was here. He played on 4 consecutive All-Star teams. He'd regularly crash just monster home runs in the upper deck at RFK Stadium. Really an overpowering player, 6 feet 7 inches, 255 pounds. Went by a lot of different nicknames, probably the most well-known being the Capital Punisher. He hit over his career 382 home runs, and it was the National League Rookie of the Year in 1960. But at that time played with the Dodgers, and we might have chosen that card, but we're limiting ourselves to sports cards where the athlete's actually pictured and playing for the Washington at the time. He was an All-American in basketball and baseball at Ohio State, drafted in a couple of different professional sports, Major League Baseball and the NBA. He has an incredible record of having hit 10 home runs in 1 week. He played during a really pitcher's era in a pitcher's park at an RFK, but was still an incredible power hitter. Unfortunately, not in the Hall of Fame, but he did go on to become a coach and a manager. He was manager for some time after that. So we chose the 1971 Topps Greatest Moments card. This is an incredibly cool set. It's very sought after, one of the rarest of kind of releases in the 70s by Topps. Had 55 cards, really cool card. It has an action photo on the front along with a headshot and the black borders, as you can see. And then on the back, it has a newspaper headline, and each card had the newspaper of the local market. So in our case was the Evening Star, and kind of commemorates his record of hitting 10 home runs in 1 week. It's an abnormal size card, so 2.5 by almost 5 inches. And those black borders are really prone to a lot of wear, so they're hard to find in good condition. I said they were, it was fairly rare release. This card has a PSA population of only 61. The PSA 6 is the most common. These cards run, from in raw shape to $80 all the way up to $850 in a PSA 7. And that's the Frank Howard card we chose as number 9. Number 8 on the top 10 must-have Washington sports cards is the 2011 Bowman Chrome Prospects Bryce Harper. So this will probably be a slightly controversial choice. Few athletes have started their professional sports careers with more hype than Bryce Harper did. He was drafted number 1 by Washington in 2010 at the age of just 17, was promoted to the majors in April 2012. He won the Rookie of the Year award, really became kind of a cultural icon in Washington, is famous for many different quotes, and one of which very well known at a press conference or in response to a question by a reporter telling him that was a clown question, bro, which kind of went viral and was repeated on places like the floor of the U.S. Senate and elsewhere. He made the All-Star team in 6 of his 7 seasons in D.C. He's been a 2-time National League MVP. He's still only 29 years old and already has 267 home runs, 752 RBIs. He won't be 30 actually until October, so conceivably or quite possibly could hit 300 home runs before he reaches his 30th birthday. So we picked the 2011 Bowman Chrome Prospects card. Look, there's a lot of prospects and rookie cards of Bryce Harper one can choose from. This is a very common one, well known and highly regarded. It has a PSA population of almost 2,500. The PSA 9 is the most common, with about half of those that have been graded are PSA 9s. There's actually a couple different variations in the set, the number 1 card and the number 111 card, which has him in a blue jersey. These cards are pretty reasonably priced, run from $33 to $40. And that's our number 8 pick. Number 7 on the top 10 must-have Washington sports cards list is the 1969 Topps Wes Unseld. Wes Unseld spent his entire career with the Baltimore, then Capital, then Washington Bullets. He was actually drafted number 2 overall in 1968. He had actually had 22 rebounds in his first game, really never looked back after that. He took the Bullets from last place in the division, last place to division title in his first year in the NBA. He was named Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season. The only other NBA player that accomplished that is Wilt Chamberlain. He played center. He averaged 14 rebounds a game throughout his career, despite the fact that he was only 6 feet 7 inches. He took the Bullets to 4 NBA Finals in that period of the 1970s. He was the Finals MVP when Washington won the championship in 1978. Was later VP, head coach, and GM of Washington. People sometimes forget how dominating the Bulls really were during this era. It was a great era for Washington basketball. So the 1969 Topps card was an easy choice here. In addition to just being a beautiful card, you've got the oval with the action shots, it outlines on the outside of it. It's a set that's just stacked with rookies: Lou Alcindor, John Havlicek, Elgin Baylor, Wes Unseld, Bill Bradley, Jerry Lucas, Elvin Hayes, Earl Monroe, Walt Frazier. I mean, that's just an unbelievable list of rookies. And this is in a set with just 99 cards. It was actually Topps first kind of return to basketball since 1957. Also, of course, there's great stars in this set as well: Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West. Yeah, this does have him with Baltimore, so slight violation of our own rules here, but the Baltimore Bullets did move to Washington not long thereafter. It's in the vicinity of the Washington era, so we're going to let this one go. I wanted to profile this this tremendous card from the 1969 Topps set. All right, number 6 is the 2018 Topps update Juan Soto in the batting stance. So Juan Soto is a Dominican Republican outfielder, signed with Washington in 2015 as a free agent. He made the his Major League Baseball debut in 2018. Really took the Major League Baseball by storm during the Nationals World Series championship run in 2019. While the team kind of faltered in 2020, it really wasn't because of Soto, who he won that Major League Baseball batting title with a .351 average in that shortened season at the age of 21, just the youngest player ever to do so. Following year, he was the NL National League MVP runner-up. He's really got just a totally complete game, a Silver Slugger, a runner-up, Golden Glove. Only 2 players have led the major leagues in on-base percentage multiple times at the age of 21 or younger, and is in pretty good company there. The other one is Ted Williams. He has extraordinary plate discipline. He's also just a tremendous personality and a lot of fun to watch on the field. He's always been a fan favorite. He's still very young. He's under contract with Washington through the 2024 season. He says he'd like to stay in Washington, make a career here. We certainly hope he does. So we're taking kind of a risk here, putting him in the top 10 must-have Washington sports cards of all time. But Juan Soto really does have the potential to be one of the greats, and we certainly hope he stays here. So we picked the 2018 Topps update. There are, again here, since it's a modern card, a lot of different options of prospects and parallels and rookies, but this card is really kind of an iconic one. It's very widely available. The PSA population is over 30,000. The PSA 10 is the most common. There's over 20,000 of those, but the cost and the value is still quite high. 135 to 170 is what it will currently run you. All right, number 5. 1972-73 Topps Elvin Hayes. So this is not Elvin Hayes' rookie card, but it is his first card with the Bullets, and so that's why we chose this particular card. Elvin Hayes, he missed only 7 games in 9 seasons with Washington. He played 16 seasons overall in the NBA. He finished 3rd in NBA history in minutes played, number 10 in scoring all time. He won the 1978 championship, was a 3-time All-NBA player, an 8-time All-Star, and had some great statistics, averaging 21.3 points and 12.7 rebounds in the NBA in a period of time that was quite different from the modern game. So here you got the copy of the 1972-73 Topps card. The PSA population is fairly small there, just 265 graded copies. PSA 8 is the most common, 123 of them. And the cost is pretty reasonable, value of $32 to $40 generally is what it will run. But Elvin Hayes is really one of the legends in Washington basketball history. Might not be kind of the same kind of name recognition that you've got with players like Oscar Robertson or Jerry Lucas, but talent-wise, second, he doesn't take backseat to any of those players at all. All right, number 4. This may come as a bit of a surprise to a lot of you, but the choice here was the 1983 Donruss Hall of Fame Heroes card for Josh Gibson. So Josh Gibson was a catcher for the Homestead Grays, the Washington Grays in the Negro Leagues from 1931 to 1932, from 1937 to 39, and from 1942 to 1946. He is, by most accounts, from anyone who saw him play at the time, one of the greatest ball players to ever play baseball. Unfortunately, never got a shot in the majors because of segregation and the unwritten ban on black players. But he was an incredible power hitter, won consecutive Triple Crowns, just a reminder what the Triple Crown is, leading the league in batting average, home runs, and RBIs. Statistics for Negro League players are a bit difficult to come by, but the Cooperstown, the official Hall of Fame, lists his career average at 359. Unfortunately, Josh Gibson died at a very young age of 35 from a stroke. And just 3 months before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball. So, really kind of tragic in that way. But an incredible player, and one of just 3 players with a statue inside the center field gate at Washington at National Stadium, along with Frank Howard and Walter Johnson. He was actually was 18th on the Sporting News 2000 list of 100 greatest players of all time. His teammate Satchel Paige said he was the greatest hitter that ever lived. So there are actually, we chose this card, in 1983 card, because there's actually no cards that were released during his playing career of him in a Washington Grays uniform. There are a couple kind of summer league, I think Venezuelan or Puerto Rican league cards, but extremely rare. And there is a 1974 card well after his career and after his death, but it's just a drawing. And this was kind of the first kind of mainstream release. I actually think it's a really beautiful card. It was a painting by an artist, Dick Perez. Some of you may recognize that name. Dick Perez did the paintings for the Donruss Diamond King cards in the early 1980s, which were in those sets, as well as the paintings for the puzzles that were included with the Donruss cards in those early releases. And I think this is just a very cool, beautiful card that pictures Josh Gibson in his Grays uniform and Grays hat. It's not it's actually now almost a 40-year-old card. So it's not a high priced or expensive card at all. Only a few have been graded by PSA Population 17, but that's not because it's rare. It's easily available raw and ungraded. You can find them online for a couple dollars. It's not a rare set at all. But this is an extraordinary player, and unfortunately we don't have cards from his tenure when he was playing. And obviously that has to do with the fact that he was in the Negro Leagues. But Josh Gibson's number 4 on our top 10 must-have Washington sports cards list. Okay, getting to the top 3 here. So number 3, the 1948 Leaf Sammy Baugh. Sammy was the quarterback for the Washington Redskins from 1937 to 1952. He's actually one of just 17 members of Pro Football's Hall of Fame charter class in 1963. He's also one of just 10 quarterbacks that was put on the NFL's 100th anniversary all-time team announced in 2019. With Washington, he won 2 national championships, was a 4-time first-team All-Pro. He's a real renaissance man in football, played quarterback, safety, and punter. Imagine that. I mean, this is a player that was basically on the field for almost every snap of the game. Certainly don't see that kind of versatility in football players any longer. He led the league in passing yards per punt, and defensive interceptions in 1943. So was the league leader on both the offensive side and the defensive side. This 1948 Leaf card, I think, is just a really iconic, cool-looking card, really classic pose in him in his Washington burgundy and gold jersey, slinging Sammy. You just have to be careful with these cards because they are there's a couple variations, and then the 1949 Leaf also uses basically the same. The front of the card is the same. It's only really distinguishable on the back of the card. So when you're looking for this, you want to make sure if you're wanting to pick up the 1948, that you're not accidentally picking up the 1949 Leaf. The PSA population is 616. This is his rookie, even though it was towards the end of his career. PSA 4 is the most common of those. There's over 100 of them. In the value, there's a lot of, they don't come up for sale that often, so there's a lot of variety in the cost. It generally can run from 410 to 625. I guess it just kind of depends on how long you're willing to wait and shop around for them, or if you want to get it quickly. But it's a fantastic card. All right, number 2 on the top 10 must-have Washington sports cards is the 2005 Upper Deck Alex Ovechkin. No surprise here, Alex Ovechkin, the left wing for the Washington Capitals from 2005 to current. He has spent all 17 years of his NHL career in Washington. Alex scored 2 goals in his NHL debut against the Blue Jackets and hasn't looked back. He's now up to as of a couple days ago, 772 goals, 676 assists. He's 36 years old, was born in Moscow. I think he won the Stanley Cup in 2018, and that really, I think, moved him up to the absolute pinnacle of the greats. I think that was the one thing that he really wanted to achieve and had been held back for quite a period of time. But the Caps did win as we all know, won the Stanley Cup in 2018. Took 44 years after they entered the league in 1974, but we all enjoyed that championship. So throughout his career, he's an 8-time leading scorer, 8-time first team All-NHL, 3-time MVP. He scored 65 goals in 2007-08, which was the most by any player in the 21st century. He's 3rd all-time in scoring behind Wayne Gretzky and Gordie Howe. So obviously that's pretty good company there, Wayne Gretzky and Gordie Howe. And he's really at the very top of the all-time players in professional hockey. This is his 2005 Upper Deck card, Young Guns. Again, he's a modern era player, so there's a lot of rookie options and prospects cards. This is a fairly well-known card. It's got a PSA population over 2,000. The PSA 10 is the most common. Almost half of them have been graded 10. And the cost of this card is quite high. It's very expensive. Generally runs about $6,300 to $7,400 currently in the PSA 10 form. So that's our number 2 card. And finally, let's go on to the number 1 top 10 must-have Washington sports card. I don't think this will come as a big surprise to anyone. The T206 Walter Johnson. These cards were produced from between 1909 to 1911, the tobacco cards inserted in packs of tobacco. Walter Johnson, also known as Big Train, really regarded by many as the greatest pitcher of all time, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. His records include 110 shutouts, 531 complete games. I can guarantee you that's a record that's not going to be approached anytime soon the way baseball is played today. He's 2nd in wins with 417, was the only pitcher with 3,000 strikeouts for over 50 years until 1974 when he was joined by Bob Gibson. His 3,508 strikeouts were a record for 56 years. He was one of just 5 inaugural members of the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1936. He was in pretty good company: Ty Cobb, Christy Mathewson, Babe Ruth, and Honus Wagner. He's the only pitcher with 400 wins and 3,500 strikeouts. He led the majors in strikeouts a record 12 times. Only Cy Young with 511 has more wins. He pitched in 1913, 55 consecutive scoreless innings, and he also won a World Series championship for Washington in 1924. So these are 2 just really classic, very well-known, iconic cards, and there are actually 2 versions of the Walter Johnson in the T206 set. One is the hands at chest card, and you can see him there with his hat and his glove. The population on that is just over 1,000. PSA 2 is the most common with a couple hundred of those, and it runs 1,700 to 2,700. The other one is slightly more popular, which is the portrait card. It's got the big W on his jersey there. The PSA population being a little bit over 1,100, again, PS2 being the most common, and a slight premium on the card value there, 2,300 to 3,000 is kind of what they're currently running. today. I actually like the hands-on chest with the baseball cap and glove a little bit more, but everyone's got their own preference there. So there you have it. That's our top 10 must-have Washington sports cards. So there are, obviously there's a lot of players that could have made this list. That I'm sure there'll be people out there that would have chosen differently here. And just to remind you of some of those who those honorable mentions are: Sonny Jurgensen, quarterback for Washington Redskins; Ryan Zimmerman really kind of defined Washington baseball since it came back to move from Montreal to DC. Has been with the team. I think his number is going to be retired later this year. Washington Redskins running back John Riggins, part of those great teams of the early 1980s that helped lead Washington to the Super Bowl. Steven Strasburg, player who came in with just incredible hype, so much excitement. I can still remember watching him pitch his first game. I think he got 15 strikeouts, and I mean, people were just like ready to jump off of the rooftops of the stadium watching Steven Strasburg. People were so excited. Unfortunately, he's had a number of injuries throughout his career, but he's been with Washington a long time, and it's really been a big part of the franchise, and including the team that led us to the World Series victory. And then lastly, kind of Art Monk. There's a couple wide receivers we might have been able to take from Washington: Charlie Taylor, Art Monk, some players that really had just tremendous careers that easily could have made this list as well. But I'd love to hear from you all. What do you think we got right? What do you think we got wrong? Who would you put on the list? Or which cards? Did we pick the right cards here? Look, we weren't looking for the absolute most valuable. Those would be, the one-of-one cards. We looked for cards that are accessible and we think will hold value for a long time to come. And if you're a Washington sports fan, these are cards you should look for. So again, I'm Ryan with the Mid-Atlantic Collectibles. I do hope you'll hope to see you at our show that's going to be coming in October. We got a really exciting show that's going to be the biggest show inside the Beltway in over 10 years. It's going to be in Silver Spring at the Civic Center just off the Metro, and lots of us going to be on October 9th. Should be a lot of fun, and hope to meet many of you there. Thanks for watching.